This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from, well, today our music studios, and we're here with the acclaimed Mexican-American Mexican singer, Lila Downs. And she has a new CD out, and it's called Al Chile. Welcome to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Before we get into the meaning of the title of your CD, I wanted to ask you about Al Clandestino, which certainly takes on new meaning every year. Out in 1998, decades ago, Manu Chau song. But talk about what it means.
Well, I think it's important to always remember what immigration means. And over 10,000 years ago, people came over the Bering Straits and populated this continent. And I think that those of us who have felt that we are connected to this kind of life, I guess we need to be reminded by wonderful songs such as Clandestino, Manu Chau, Peace.
And what does clandestino mean? I mean, clandestine translated into English, but more than that.
Right. Well, it's an illegal, basically. And illegal, I think it's a tough word. It's a tough word to deal with.
To call a human being.
A person,
and illegal.
Yeah. I think for me, it's when I saw these videos about the children in the detention centers, that's when I really broke down, and I thought I need to say something once again about this. On every album, I devote a piece to immigration. Yeah.
As we're doing this interview today, we got news that yet another child has died in immigration custody in this country. Once again, Guatemalan, today a teenager. We learned a 16-year-old boy, so far his name has been withheld, died of an infection in his brain as he was being held by immigration. Your thoughts?
Sad, inhumane situation. I think that hopefully we can write more songs, we can change legislation, and we can make people more aware of these difficult times towards immigrants.
Can you share the words of Clandestino in English?
Yeah. Well, it says, "Solo voy con mi pena." I am alone with my baggage or my pain. It can be interpreted as both. Sola va mi condena. This is my destiny. Correr es mi destino. To run is constantly my destiny in order to be illegal. It's very simple, really, very strong, very powerful song.
We're talking to Lila Downs. Can you talk about the power of music to transform society when you're feeling utterly frustrated as you cross the border from Mexico, you live in Oaxaca, to the United States and back again? So many are being detained.
Yeah, it's really difficult for me because it's painful. It's about feeling towards the U.S. and feeling towards empathy towards people who come here and feel like this is their home, their adopted home. And I guess that I have always had such admiration for the U.S. I think the U.S. is a tremendously amazing place. And so it's sad to see this other side that has anger and kind of a vengeance that I feel is not a civilized way of dealing with immigration.
Let's turn to Clandestino by Manu Chau, sung by Lila Downs right here in Democracy Now! Studios.
I'd like to introduce the band. It's okay. So this is Ron Wilkins from San Antonio, Texas, on trombone. Josh Deutsch from Seattle on trumpet. Mr. Juancho Herrera on guitar from Venezuela, New York City. Samuelito Torres on percussion from Colombia, New York City. On bass, Mr. Rafa Gomez from Venezuela and New York City. And Sinue Padilla on jaranas and voice from Mexico, Ciudad de México. Sola voy con mi pena, sola va mi condena. Correr es mi destino para burlar la ley, perdida en el corazón de la grande Babilón. Me dicen clandestino por no llevar papel. Pa' una ciudad del norte yo me fui a trabajar. Mi vida la dejé entre Tijuana y Bagdad. Soy una raya en el mar, fantasma en la ciudad. Mi vida va prohibida, dice la autoridad. ¿Qué será de nosotros si no pensamos en los niños? Sola voy con mi pena, sola va mi condena. Correr es mi destino para burlar la ley, perdida en el corazón de la grande Babilón. Me dicen clandestina por no en la quiebra ley. Venezolano, colombiano, sonorense, borderiza ilegal. Condena. Correr es mi destino para burlar la ley, perdida en el corazón de la grande Babilón. Me dicen clandestino, yo soy la quiebra ley. Peruano, clandestino. Hondureño, clandestino. Mexicana, clandestina. Marihuana, ilegal. Chapaneca, clandestina. Nicaragüense, clandestino. Salvadoreño, ilegal. Boliviano, clandestino. Oaxaqueña, clandestina. Ecuatoriano, clandestino. Tapatía, ilegal. United States of America, detention centers. Remember the children. Clandestino.
That's Lila Downs singing Clandestino by Manu Chau, actually written back in 1998, referring to clandestine people, to people who are, quote, illegal, and what that means today. Talk about producing this CD and why you call it Al Chile.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to change the production, kind of go out there and record things in their natural state. And so I looked for Camilo Lara. He's a producer who has done a number of recordings with both kind of pop and rock, and also what would you say, the tropical movement from the 70s in Latin America. And I'm so in love with this era. You know, the 70s is something that I'm crazy about. So it was a wonderful experience. We actually, he was telling me he had to pay over 200 musicians who collaborated on this album. And we recorded some of the tracks in Mexico City, and then we went off to Oaxaca and recorded a Zapotec indigenous band in Juchitán, and also in Oaxaca City recorded another band. And together with some classic bands from the 70s, Rigo Tovar band, Costa Azul, and also Sonora Tropicana, and with the Instituto Mexicano de Sonido, came up with this kind of mix of influences, both the rural influences of music, brass bands, and also dance bands from the city.
And why El Chile, the chili pepper?
Yeah, well, I am in love with this subject right now. Of course, in Mexico, it has double meaning.
What's the double meaning?
Well, I think that we're always joking about Chile, and Chile being a sexual receptacle. So spice is definitely the center of our lives, and I think that it also explores our character and personality, and so we love it. And the curious thing is, men have a very different reaction to the phrase, and women just start laughing.
Lila, can you talk about Dear Someone, which features Norah Jones?
Yeah. Oh, it was so fun to meet Norah Jones. We came to New York to record with her in Brooklyn, and she played the piano, and she's such a natural musical force. And she's a lovely person, very introspective and sensitive. And she chose this song by Gillian Welch for us to sing. She had a Mexican singer friend who passed a while back, and I think it was kind of an ode or a homage to this friend of hers from Texas.
Let's go to Dear Someone.
I wanna go all over the world and start living free. I know that there's somebody who is waiting for me. I'll build a boat steady and true as soon as it's done. I'm gonna sail along in a dream of my dear someone. One little star smiling tonight knows where you are. Stay, little star, steady and bright, to guide me afar. Rush, little wind, over the deep, for now I've begun. Hurry and take me straight into the arms of my dear someone. Hurry and take me into the arms of into the arms of my dear someone.
Dear Someone, that's Lila Downs performing in our studio here at Democracy Now! The album actually features Norah Jones. What's it like to do these collaborations and also to do this kind of cross-border collaboration? You did it in Brooklyn. You did it in Oaxaca, where you live. You did it all over.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's so beautiful when you can somehow translate and bring different worlds together, and because sometimes there's a lot of things that are lost in translation. I think that's an amazing thing that music can do that, and this album is actually, when people ask me, well, how do you feel about it, or it is a very intuitive album, I think. All the pieces are very, dance-oriented, and I think it wasn't as inspired by the mind or the heart, but more by the waist on down.
Can you talk about your tattoo, what it says?
Yeah, this was an important tattoo that I had done a few years back, called, and it says respeto, which means respect. And I have realized after therapy why I needed to get this done. I was feeling a little lost going back to Mexico after living many years outside of Mexico. So going back to a very traditional community is a difficult thing. And but I love challenges, so.
You also perform the song Cariñito.
Yeah. Explain
what that means and why this was your choice.
Yeah. Well, Cariñito is this beautiful Peruvian cumbia that is written by Ángel Aníbal. And people know this piece from the 70s. And cumbia, takes over all of Latin America. It's a genre, of course, mainly from Colombia and also the Andean region. And actually this cumbia is called an Andean cumbia. And then there are several other pieces that are cumbia classics, like Los Caminos de la Vida. And there are also some other classic songs for dance on the album. Yeah.
Let's go to Cariñito. That's Cariñito, performed by the 6-time Grammy Award-winning Lila Downs. Talk about winning Grammys, one after another, after another, after another, and what that means, what it does for your music, and how just what it means to popularize your music in 2 languages on both sides of the border.
Well, I think that I need to remind myself of it, and then it makes me take myself serious, because I think sometimes I try to be a regular person, and so in a creative sense, I think it does affect what you do the next time around, and so it feels like you have a responsibility. In my case, I love to incorporate folk music and significance and meaning in the songs, and so it gives me the reason to come up with something more interesting the next time.
And you also are famous for singing about President Trump. Talk about this. We last spoke right when your album had come out. And now it's a few years later into President Trump's term, first term or final term, we'll see. But talk about what he has meant for you.
Well, I think there is darkness in the world, and I think if you spend too much time focusing on it constantly, that darkness does take over. So I think that's why it's important to find, for myself, projects that make me feel positive about my life and about the future of the country that I'm living in. Right now it's Mexico. So I feel like, I need to stop focusing on Trump. But I do think that, because of him, Latin Americans have come together. And that is something I'm grateful for.
You've also seen the election of AMLO, of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, in Mexico. What about that? And do you feel that he is changing Mexico?
I think it's too soon to say, and things seem a little chaotic because it's quite a change. But I think we need to be on top of the change. We need to be careful with how things will be changing, but also not lose faith so quickly.
The Demagogue, talk about writing that song.
Yeah, well, I think when President Trump was elected, I just couldn't believe what was happening, I think because in our music and in our lives, we have worked so hard to try and kind of cover these gaps or these bridges that we were talking about between people, and then here comes somebody that just believes in dividing us even more. That was very depressing and difficult for me to deal with, so I had to write a song about it, about the Demagogue.
You didn't perform it here today, but the last time you were in our studio, you performed it. And I want to go to that right now. This is the Demagogue. It's by Lila Downs.
At the edge of the world, where the factories are, there's a burning of hatred that's crossing the lines. There's a blue-eyed devil man, thinks he's king of the world. He's bully, a salesman, selling fear and hate. Who do you think you are? Plays us with his hate, turns man against man, but it's really not a game. And I pray to the ancestors' love, do not be fooled by this man's foolish talk. The serpent woke again in different times and places. There's a burning cross leading the mob, people in chains. He's a quack circus act creeping from the past. He's the symbol of the monster we no longer want to be. What we used to be. The earth trembles with these names: Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, Pinochet. No respect for woman, no respect for race, no respect for anything that lives, the human race. But he cannot buy our soul. No a ese muro voy cortando el odio, voy sembrando amor. No a ese muro de la explotación, pero es mi cosa. La luz de la mañana, el lugar de mis ancestros, las flores del desierto. Gonna show that my love is much stronger than hate. I'm gonna call on the four winds. I'm gonna change my fate. Gonna rise up singing. Gonna stand for this place. It's a long time, mi gente, and there's no turning back. There's no turning back. There's no turning back.
That's Lila Downs singing her song, The Demagogue, about President Trump. How have audiences responded to it over these 2 years?
I think a lot of people were surprised. And especially Latin people were like, oh my God, this is pretty direct. So, yeah, thank you for playing that.
So as you now release this album, it's right around Cinco de Mayo. Talk about the significance of that day and how you hope people will respond traveling here in the United States and Europe and Mexico.
Yeah. Well, you know, I didn't know about the significance of Cinco de Mayo until I went to a little indigenous community in Puebla, Nahuatl, and they spoke Nahuatl and Totonaca in this community. And they said to me that during Benito Juarez, when he was the president, he asked for support from the United States because we were being invaded by the French. And that's why that is such an important date between the U.S. and Mexico. And they helped, of course, to fight against the French. And so I was just very surprised. I did not know this. And I am very, very happy to hear this. One more point that we can be united on some things.
And finally, talk about the wall and what the wall means on both sides of the border as you travel back and forth. President Trump's wall, who said Mexico would pay for it, they haven't. Republicans and Democrats both said no to the wall, and so he simply appropriated $8 billion of taxpayer money and said he's going to build it anyway.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think we should create art along this area, and I think we should come together and really show that we have love for each other. And I know that I sound like a crazy hippie, but I really do think that that's the way to deal with something like this. I think we need to show that the border area everyone is brothers and sisters and their families. And, you know, when you live in that area, you realize that there's no way that a wall is going to function.
Well, I want to thank you, Lila Downs, 6-time Grammy Award-winning songwriter, singer, Lila Downs, here in Democracy Now! Studios. The new album that's just out in this beginning of May is called Al Chile. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.